So by the time he arrives, if he arrives, it'll be introductions just about finished. So Catherine's here from Kent Community Foundation. We've got 25 minutes to half an hour max, and thank you, the floor's yours.
Okay, well thank you very much everyone for inviting us here. I'm Catherine Glover, I'm the Chief Executive of Kent Community Foundation. I brought some of my colleagues with me this evening because I think it's an important conversation for us to have. So I'll just ask them to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Smith. I'm the Director of Grants and Impact at Kent Community Foundation.
And I'm Angela Davis, I'm Head of Finance and Governance.
Susie?
And I'm Sophie Hosking, and I'm the Interim Head of Development.
Great, thank you. So we put together a presentation, as you would have seen. I'm going to move through it fairly quickly because obviously conscious of time, and I do expect there to be a lot of questions. So we'll go through it sort of a pace and make sure we've got time at the end. So what we just want to cover this evening is a bit about who we are and our track record, a little bit about our investment model, and most importantly, I think really is around how we add value to local grant making, which is obviously at the crux of this discussion and this decision that you will have to make going forward. So we've been around for a long time. That's an important thing to start off with. Next year, Kent Community Foundation will turn 25. So we have an extensive track record of place-based giving. We've given over 60 million in grants during that period. We have over 100 funds under management. We are a charitable foundation, so we are governed by a board of trustees. Within our governance structures, we have an investment committee, as well as a grants committee, a staff and remuneration committee, and an ESG committee as well, and a finance and operations committee. So that's the sort of overall structure that we have. We've supported a number of place-based legacy funds in the past. Some of you might be aware of the Lawson Trust, which is another rather large place-based giving organisation in Kent and Medway, and we've worked with them closely over the years and accepted funding from them that we then go on to manage, making sure that the grants that we're giving are really focused on small, locally based organisations. That's our expertise, that's what we know really well, and that's what we think we're really, really good at. So just put that out there. So a bit about endowment giving. So I should say that we provide broadly two different types of funds, but the one that we think would be most appropriate for the Georgina Maddox legacy would be to have an endowment fund with us. Now, the reason for that is that the funding would be invested along with our other endowment funds. We have an endowment that's around 30 million at the moment in value, so that's fairly significant. And again, speaks a bit, I think, to the trust and the track record that we have with our fund holders. The funding from the legacy would be invested. We would charge a one-off setup fee, and then on an annual basis, we would draw down income from the investment that would provide the money that's available for grant making. So it's a very straightforward model and something that we've done quite successfully over the years with some very sizable funds as well, as I mentioned the Lawson one. In terms of the relationship with us, it means that we sort of, investing with us ticks all of your compliance boxes from a sort of a legal and fiscal responsibility. But it means that what's so important in this is that you would still retain the decision-making power around the grants and where those grants go as well. So we do all the heavy lifting and all the difficult bits and the legal, the audit, the compliance. We will take care of all of that, but you will still get to make decisions about supporting local groups. So again, I've touched on this a bit already, the advantages of an arm's length model. And I know that this was something that was recommended in the locality report, and having looked at that, is something that obviously we think is very important. And I think, again, what's really important for us to be able to discuss with you is that through working with us, you wouldn't be giving over funds and then having nothing to do with it. we would set up, as you have a committee at the moment that's been making decisions around making some grants, we would set up what we call a panel. It's a committee essentially, we call it a panel. And we would work with you on designing the scope of your grant making and your priorities, and you would be involved in all of that. So that's our partnership model that we have with you. But you get the security of the fact that, as I said, we deal with all the legal and the compliance issues and invest the funds and take those decisions as well around the fund managers. So it would give you some space and that sort of that impartiality as well, which I think is something really important for everyone to bear in mind. So how we deliver local grant making, as I've touched on, we would work really closely with you to design funding priorities that meet with the criteria of the legacy as well. We would create a bespoke fund identity for you as well, which would allow you to, us together, you and us, to promote the fund with local groups. We have various ways that we do that. We have a regular newsletter that goes out to all potential grantees. We have a Facebook page, obviously. The fund identity, the fund logo could be put on the website, on the Town Council's website as well. So we would be able to make sure we were sort of spreading the message, the positive message about the work that was being funded through this legacy, and to make sure that we were attracting new and emerging groups as well who might want to apply for funding. So we would do all of the due diligence, the grant assessment, all of the monitoring and impact reporting of all of the grantees as well that you've selected. So we take care of that. That's obviously quite a heavy admin lift, and that would fall to us. We would make sure that we took care of all the reporting. So when the organisations that you're funding, you want to hear back from them, how have they done, how have they spent the money, what was good, what worked, what didn't. We take care of all of that as well, and we would work with the grantees to do the reporting, and then we would share that back with you as well. So all of that information comes back to you, and if there's ever any chasing or questions or follow-up, we do all of that for you as well. But yeah, so this is this point about retaining the decision making via the panel. I think the other thing that's really useful to know is that Natalie's team and the grants team are hugely experienced, and many of the team have been with the organisation a really long time. So as well as knowing the local community in this area, they know communities all over Kent and Medway, and having that strategic view of what's happening in the broader county that can help inform some of your decisions, I think is something that's great value that we can offer, and it's something that our other fund holders regularly say, well, you know, we thought this was important, and then we met with you, and we learned that there were these other issues at community level that maybe we weren't aware of, that's really helped us think about how we spend our money. So what your panel could look like, as I said, panels are word for committee in essence. I mentioned that we create a fund identity for you. Now, our comms team have just mocked this up just as a sort of example of what a sort of a fund logo might look like for you. Again, the panel can be constructed in a way that really meets your requirements. 6 might be the right number. You might want more, you might want less. That's something that we would work with you in terms of the design. You might want it to be just members as a council. You might want to have members of the community participate in that panel. Again, we have lots of experience of doing what we call participatory grant making. So having panels or committees where members from the community come and sit and be represented in decision making there. Again, suggestion that with an endowment fund meeting once or twice a year is ideal, because obviously you're then looking at your income and the money that you've got to spend, and you make decisions then obviously based on the income you've got at the time. We would provide all shortlists, assessments, recommendations, but you choose the grants, and that's the really key thing. You would also, by working with us, have a dedicated grants manager, so someone who sits in Natalie's team, who would be your account manager through the duration. And would be on hand to answer questions at any time. Also, if someone learned about a new group that was coming up and was maybe interested in getting some funding, you could always go direct to your grant manager and say, do you know this group? Have you heard of them before? You know, what do you think? So it's a very open relationship that you have with your grants manager, and it's that person is sort of dedicated to you, so they get to know you, they get to know what you care about as issues, and they get to build that relationship with you and the broader community. So I've touched on some of this already, and the grant making with added value. So as I said, not only is it our track record, but it is our roots into the whole of Kent and Medway that we feel is a real strength. Our expertise is very much working with small organisations. Many of those will have an income of under 100,000. Many of the organisations that apply to us for funding, it will be their first funding opportunity. They might be volunteer-led, they might not have much experience of grant seeking. We are very supportive in the way that we work. We don't just give out cheques to organisations. We will go and meet organisations. We will offer them advice about how to write a really good application. We will suggest other funding sources that they might be able to apply to. If we're not right for them, we can signpost and say, what about this? Have you thought of this? We deliver funding workshops and events that are tailored to local community groups as well. As I said, we connect with wider audience, and we're able to provide that broader oversight, I think, of community action in Kent and Medway, which is actually something that we find a lot of our fund holders really appreciate as well. Obviously, we're a place-based giver, so Kent and Medway is what we know. Working with you, the focus would very much be on Sandwich. But there's lots that happens around that, you know, sort of, we're all connected in the county, being able to bring in those connections and learning opportunities between groups as well that we can help facilitate. The other thing that we can do, and we quite often do, is organise visits as well. So where funding's gone to a group, we might work to set up a visit, so or a presentation or something like that, so people from the committee can go and talk to the people delivering the work, meet some of the beneficiaries firsthand, if that's something that's important to you. So in terms of, so why work with us? We've been doing this for a long time, as I said, so we have a lot of experience to bring to bear on this. It really is a partnership approach that we take, and I can't stress that enough. That's, you know, for us it's not just about receiving the legacy, it's about working with you to put that to really good use, and actually make sure that together we're helping honour this incredible legacy that Georgina left the town of Sandwich and the communities of Sandwich. So it's just not for now, it's for the future as well, and that's something that's important to us. In terms of next steps, I mean, we've just put this in just to give you a sense of timing. Because we have the infrastructure in place, we have the systems in place, we have the teams in place, we can turn around setting up a fund within, you know, a number of weeks. What we would need is a decision. We would have a discussion then with you about the detail, what the fund would look like, the priorities, as I said, the makeup of the panel. We then have a standard, what we call a philanthropy services agreement, that we agree together the content of that, and then we would sign that with you. We would organise the transfer of funds to come over to us. We would invest those funds with our endowment, with our investment managers, and then by April we could be looking at setting up the first panel of decision making for grants as well. So that's the endowment, that's if you work in endowment. That's the sort of timeline that we're looking at. Questions? That was a bit of a whistle stop. So I hope that was easy enough to follow, but we do appreciate there'll be lots of questions.
So thank you very much. It was clear.
Great.
Any questions from the floor?
So obviously, if we do go with this, and we have our own committee or panel, as you say, are we allowed to So, for instance, at the moment, the grants that we're doing a maximum up to £5,000. Normally, when the total is fund, we have normally £2,000 maximum. Are we still allowed to be able to say we can do that amount of money, or is that up to you guys to
No, we'll
fall
discuss
down
that.
to us?
Yeah, we'll discuss that with you. So that's one of the sort of expertise that Natalie and her team
Yeah.
bring in terms of helping inform the grant
Yeah.
making.
I mean, I would say if we do work with you on this, it's going to be kind of £105,000 a year to spend on grants, which for a very small geography is quite a lot of money. So you might like to consider increasing the grant limit to something higher, so you're really making a difference to a small number of organisations. So there's lots to discuss there. Yeah. But you set those kind of criteria.
Thank you. Catherine, are you happy to manage the questions with Ruth? Not going to
Yes.
break my neck.
Yeah, sorry, there's a gentleman in a brown coat.
Two questions. I didn't quite understand the fee structure that you've got. Could you elaborate on that? And then, yes, please.
Yes. Do you want to do that one, Angela?
Okay, so if you transfer the funds to us for an endowment investment, we charge a one-off setup fee.
Yeah, got that.
And that's it's 3% or £15,000, which is capped at. And then each year we draw down 5% in income from the fund. It's done on a total return basis. And then of that we take a 1.5% fee, and 3.5% is then allocated towards grant making. So the 1.5% is our management fee. It's similar to your current investment house will be charging a management fee to manage your portfolio.
And 1.5% per annum. The other thing was, you said, of course, you covered the whole county, but obviously very much we are a parish-based organisation. What other parishes or town councils within say a 15-mile radius of here do you currently work with?
Natalie, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, we work with Dover District Council. That's actually a corporate fund. That comes to us from Dover Harbour Board. So yes, we give away around sort of £150,000 a year in Dover on behalf of Dover Harbour Board.
Yes.
We have a fund on the border with Sussex. I know it's not here, but it's a very small geography. It's what's the name of it?
Little Cheney.
Oh, there's Little Cheney as well, which is a wind farm based fund. But the one I was thinking of, Wadhurst. Yeah, so we have a family fund. The family live in Wadhurst. They've restricted their giving to within, it's a really small area. It's like a 10-mile radius of Wadhurst, and half of that is in Sussex. So half of that we can't touch. So we kind of got, so we're quite good at giving really effective grants in small geographies, but there are considerations, size of grant, as I said.
So it would be fair to say that you've got specific knowledge of what Dover Harbour is doing, but otherwise in this part of East Kent at the moment, you haven't got a lot of penetration?
No, we have a fund with Royal St George's as well, which is just up the road.
The club?
The club, the golf club, yes, yeah. Which is generally kind of donor directed, so they identify, by donor directed I mean that the fund holder identifies the organisations that they want to support, so they're proactive rather than, well sometimes they're reactive as well, i.e. they accept applications from us and will fund, so that's all around Sandwich. They've just actually expanded their remit to cover East Kent, Sandwich and East Kent, so we are fairly knowledgeable, I would say, about organisations in this part of the county. I mean, we have some Thanet-based funds. I know it's kind of up, north of here, but kind of East Kent generally, we've got quite a lot of knowledge of what's happening and organisations around the county, and particularly in East Kent.
Thank you.
Sorry, the gentleman at the back in the glasses with his hand up.
As I understand it, if the fund is transferred to KCF, that's a one-way street.
Yes.
It can never come back.
Yes,
What,
that's where.
as we know, many charities are struggling. What happens if, God forbid, you go bust? What's the status of the previous Maddox Fund as was?
If we went bust.
Well, I don't think we could.
I
I
think
don't think we could
it's
go bust
unlikely
because
that we would
yeah,
go bust.
because we have it, the endowment. We already have 30 million endowment, which is there forever in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So we're not dependent upon government funding or even actually addition. I mean, of course, absolutely fantastic to get additional funds in because it means we can make more grants. But we've got that 30 million endowment, which is with us permanently in perpetuity. So
The charities do go, kids company, stock market crashes, the unexpected.
yeah, but they didn't have £30 million endowment.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Our actual our operating model financially is very sustainable. I actually did just a thought experiment really. So what would it take for us to run out of money? And it would take sustained downturn lasting over 3 decades for us to run out of money. Incredibly unlikely.
Yeah, so just on this endowment, normally when we think about an endowment, it's a fixed amount of money, so it would be 104,000 every year going forward for the next, infinity type of thing, really. So that means that in terms of inflation, the value of the grant is reducing. Am I right? Have I understood that right? It's not that you're investing it in stocks and shares or whatever with your 2 investment managers and the principal sum may be growing, but you're only taking out 5% a year.
Yeah, that is because that policy was put in place by our investment committee. Should there be some sort of massive catastrophe in the financial landscape of the country, then our investment committee would review that, and then there could be some consultation with fund holders. I mean that would be it would have to be quite catastrophic for us to do that, but I mean that possibility is there. But yes, I mean it would be subject to fluctuations in the rate of interest as anything else would be. Sorry, the rate of inflation as anything else would be. So yes, it would be. Yeah.
And
Yes, there was a lady at the back.
Can you tell us a bit about how the fund is managed? I mean, who manages the portfolio? I mean, presumably you invest in stocks and shares. So you talked about the investment committee. So do you employ portfolio fund managers, or do you do it yourselves? And what sort of criteria do you use for investment?
So we work with 2 investment managers. We work with CCLA, who you might be aware of, who are the church investment group, and Saracen are our other investment partners. So they manage the investments on our behalf. It's not us that does them, because obviously it's a lot of money, and we need to make sure that we are working with and using the people with the most appropriate and relevant skills to manage our endowment fund. So we have investment managers that do that for us. So they are making those investment choices about what to invest in and what not to invest in. As a charity, we have an ethical policy around our investments. So we choose ethical funds, or we screen our funds, or our investment managers do on our behalf. But in our investment policy, who we invest with and how we invest is really important. So we do, we have an environmental policy. So for example, we're not looking at investing in oil and gas, for example. So that is taken care of through our investment policy and our investment managers.
Mine was a similar question to that one about managing the fund.
could we actually see that criteria for the fund as to ecological, sustainable, like that? Could we see that before we actually made a decision? Because there's quite a lot of companies, like holdings companies, that have smaller companies in their portfolio who don't always have the outlook that this council would have. So I would really like to see that. The other thing I was going to ask about with these two management consultants is that what is the arrangement between those two consultants and yourself? So are they a totally separate company? Are they like Hargreaves or one of the big city firms, or are they in some way under your umbrella?
No, they are completely independent. They are investment houses who run their own funds, and then we invest in units in those funds. So they entirely independently of us make their own buying and selling decisions, and have all the. They are specialists in investing for charities. So they balance risk and reward very, very carefully. They're very mindful to do that. So you don't have it, there's no over volatility. The ups and downs. They try and balance all of that, and they are professional. They're long established. They know their stuff really well. Our investment committee meets with them every 6 months and interrogates them on the fund performance. And also we review the appointment of our investment managers every 3 to 5 years as well. So we keep it constantly under review. Because it's £30 million. It's very, very important to us that we are getting the best value, not ultimately for the beneficiaries who benefit from these investments.
Yeah, definitely. The reason why I say that, sorry to just continue briefly, is this funding that we've got available is from a lady who had very, very particular interests and concerns, and I think really we should respect this benefactor's interests and concerns and make sure that it is invested how she would have liked it.
Yeah.
We can share our investment criteria.
I would think that'd be a necessity if you don't mind.
I'm sure I'm pretty confident it would align very well because we are, we do invest ethically.
Thank you.
That's something that's very important.
Okay, just mindful that we're getting close to the end time. I just want to go back to seek further clarification to the point about the 5%. So, just in simple terms, the 5% return, which is circa 120k per annum, does that stay at that level indefinitely, i.e. inflation ultimately will reduce that value? That wasn't clear to me in terms of the answer.
Yeah, it would for the foreseeable future until such time as it's reviewed.
Okay, right.
So can I just
Sorry, I haven't finished. It'll be very quickly. So, assessing applications was part of the pre-stage. What would be very worrying is that if we were managing through a panel the awards, that we weren't aware of what was being denied as an application, because obviously small community will refer to applications will come from many standing organisations that we're aware of. It's incumbent on them satisfying the criteria, but how do we engage in terms of the assessment stage so we don't lose some organisations that we would expect normally to go through the process?
We would talk to you about that if that's what you wished. Before communicating back to the applicant.
Yeah, so it's not standalone, not separate.
Yeah, we would say, so this has come in, this is good, this is less good.
Yeah.
We're minded to regret this, but what do you think?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claire.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to be clear. So it's not 5% of the current portfolio value. It's 5% of the initial investment.
It's 5% of the market value at the time. So I misunderstood the question. Yes. So we calculate it based on a rolling 3-year average as well, which smooths out any spikes.
Okay.
Sorry, if that wasn't there.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
We've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Just to clarify, you've said on this subject, well, there's still 104k available. What happens if we choose not to spend 104k? What happens to the balance?
It just stays in your pot.
It stays in your pot.
It's held as
the
cash.
next year it might be 108 or something
Yes,
like that.
exactly.
If we only spend about 4.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, I'm just mindful that some people might have missed out.
There's a gentleman at the
I'm
back.
not going to time to go into it, but I would like to know a lot more about your corporate structure and how legally you operate, because you are in effect asking us, we've left this fund by the Labour, which is now owned by the council. You're asking us to hand it over on a one-way street, as you say yourself, nowhere we could get it back. So I think we would need to satisfy ourselves very much on just what safeguard there is. And there's really a couple of points which my colleague here made earlier. But what happens if your fund fails? Funds do fail. So that is something which we do need to be certain of amongst ourselves at a later stage.
I didn't talk about the other type of fund that we have available, which we call a flow-through fund, which is essentially like a philanthropic bank account that you can put money into and then you can sort of spend straight away. It's not invested.
But we can't take money out.
No, you can't. No, but that's about making a charitable gift. So that's sort of the legality of making.
Okay, so I'm just mindful we've got a hard line, so sorry, just speaking, we'll end there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question about panel decision making. Is that done within like private room, or is it open to the public? Is it?
No, it's. I mean, you would decide who
You would
sits on the
decide.
panel, so
Yeah.
that's within your remit. To
Yeah,
say.
no. In terms of when you make that decision, when the panel meets, is it the members of the panel only who attend
Yes,
that meeting?
yes,
And
yes,
it's got
yes,
that
yes.
confidentiality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Confidentiality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Quick question from that.
Yeah.
You set a limit, and what happens, because Georgina, we wanted, let somebody remember, said we wanted to do a memorial garden, we might want £200,000, what would happen then? Could we say we want £200,000 to do a memorial garden for Georgina Maddox?
Would STC have to apply for their own fund, basically?
Well, no, not once the money's gone, it's invested.
So you say no, you can't do it?
You have to do that beforehand.
Yeah, so you have to be a registered charitable organisation
Yeah.
to be able to then apply for funding for Cape Community Foundation, because we're a charitable grant giver.
Yeah.
So you have to have either CIO status or a charitable status to be able to apply for funding.
Sorry, as I see it, you've got £30 million in funding. We're potentially going to invest £3 million, which would be 10%. You have 10 trustees. We would really want the Mayor of Sandwich at the time to be a trustee of your organisation. Now I know last year 5 trustees stepped down and a number of trustees stepped up, and I know that you have an open recruitment process from your policy,
Yeah.
but it says that you retain the ability to recommend individuals to become trustees. One word, would you recommend that the Mayor of Sandwich becomes a trustee of your organisation?
I think I'm going to answer that in more than one way, just because it's something that we need to be aware of. Now, we would be happy to have a conversation with our board about that, but I think we need to be really careful about how that potentially would appear. As you said, we have a process that we go through, because what we wouldn't want it to look like, and that it's important we maintain our integrity. I absolutely understand the basis of the question, but as a rule, we don't sort of give out board places because someone's put a lot of funding into us. So I understand why that's important.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine, that's fine. Are you happy to take questions beyond this for any that people feel haven't been answered fully?
Yes, of
and we can
course.
do
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
I think what would be a good idea, Mr. Mayor, is to put questions to the town clerk. The town clerk
Yes, we'll do
consent.
that.
Yeah.
We'll come back
Yes,
to the next section.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for
Sorry
your
about
time.
this.
Thank you.
No,
have managed to make any impressions.
So one for me as well.
Oh, that's fine. Just tell them they've got one thing. Only for Georgina
My sister had her 80th birthday on Sunday. No, Saturday. And she refused to do anything special.
So William was very keen. Big party then, Saturday.
I think they're doing live. Just the interesting.
Sorry, I think it's because we were in next door, just brighter lights.
That light switch over there. Well, that's all.
Brighter lights off, they're all on.
Huh?
Yeah, I think the next room is just bright and we come in here and it just feels really dull. There's a bulb out above your head.
That's the nature of us.
There's lights up there. Yeah, up
Yeah,
here,
On the beams,
up here, look.
Ah,
Switch over
well, that
there.
must be the pull string. Is it pull string?
Oh,
That's the level.
What about that?
Full screen.
pull string there.
There.
Look,
Colin.
there we go.
Too many wheeler things, you do that.
I got caught like that once.
That hasn't been used for some reason.
No.
Oh,
He's 400 years old.
There's, yeah, switches in.
Do you want me to put it on?
there we go. I'll turn them off.
Too bright.
Okay, go live.
The volume's working. Just check. Okay. Okay, good evening members, welcome to this extraordinary general meeting of Sandwich Town Council. Okay, so we've just completed the pre-meeting, so apologies to anybody who's watching for the late start. We had to move between two rooms. Could I first of all ask from the Town Clerk whether there were any apologies for absence received?
Yes, Councillor Fortescue.
Thank you very much. On the agenda, the next item is declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda tonight? I think we probably should have, because we will be talking about grants later on. It might be a bit of a Mexican wave.
Yes, I have an interest in the Jubilee Centre, and I shan't take any part in the discussions regarding the grant and application from the Jubilee Centre.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. I'll reverse.
And likewise, the Jubilee Centre.
Thank you.
Hang on, I need to
Right. Representative.
That's Councillor Tomlins and
And
Councillor Gray and
Councillor
Councillor Anderson.
An interest, but not a pecuniary. I don't actually make any, of course, with Christmas lights, with the Coconut event, sometimes.
Yeah. We only need to register pecuniary
No,
interest. In other words, you're going to make money.
No.
Or you belong to an organisation that's going to potentially make through
I occasionally get a beer for using my trailers. So
Let's not talk about that. Customs and excise. Councillor Morehouse.
So I have an interest, significant but not pecuniary interest, in the Sandwich Community Events Association directly and indirectly to the Folk and Ale and Christmas Lights committees.
And will that affect your participation?
I will not participate
in those two.
No.
Okay.
In those three.
Three.
SCEA, Christmas Lights, Folk and Ale.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace?
Yeah. Ditto. I'm also a committee member of community events. So that item I won't participate in. And also Christmas lights and folk and ale indirectly.
Thank you. Councillor Marie?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bennett. The same for me. So I am a committee member for the SGA, Sandwich Community Events Association, so I won't vote on that. However, I am STC rep for Christmas Lights and also for the Folk and Ale Festival, and I'm not part of their committees. I just report back to the council, so I can vote for those.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Yes, I would like somebody to help me with my laptop because I cannot. If somebody could just log me on because I just can't log.
Right, okay, so we'll do that
Because I
discreetly in the
tried, I didn't
background.
take my password with me
I
too.
think that's what goes to state. I am a committee member on the lights and also community events.
And your position on those tonight?
Basically, committee member, and my position is I won't vote on that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Is that the complete set? I think it is. Yep, that's okay. Move on to the next item, which is public participation, 20-minute session set aside for councillors and the public to make representations of the meeting in respect to the business on the agenda and other matters if time permits. Do we have any requests to speak? No.
No, we're all guests.
Moving on to agenda item 5, Kent Community Foundation. So we had the session for half an hour beforehand. What I don't want to do is spend half an hour, 45 minutes or more talking about this. I think lots of interesting information, time to reflect. I think it's important that any questions that people feel were not either fully answered or weren't answered at all, that they do provide those to the town clerk. And if we can set that to the end of this week, and we will get those tabled with KCF. But just any reflections from anybody now? Councillor Morehouse.
Councillor Marie suggested this. You take questions to the town clerk.
Yes.
And I'm fully supportive of that.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Observations.
Do you want
Observations. The majority of at least, I would say the majority of those asking for grants in the 14 that we're looking at today aren't charities. So all of them, or the majority, would be excluded by KCF.
And that's my point. Okay, so that's something we will need to seek clarification on. If you want to frame a question that really squeezes that out, that would be helpful.
I felt that they stated very clearly CIO, CIC only, and they actually used those words.
Okay, so we can still frame
we
can still frame a question that, Councillor Anderson.
I'm not sure that's right actually. Having applied to KCF successfully as a trustee of the Jubilee Centre, which is a registered charity, but as I remember it, you can be some other constituted type of organisation. You don't have to be a registered charity, but I do agree it's an important question.
And can I just mention it is an STC meeting, we would normally stand, so if people are happy to do that, unless they've got an ailment of some particular nature, then you can continue with this. Any other comments regards what we heard?
Yes, well, as I just mentioned, I have personally successfully applied to KCF, and the first thing that happened when I contacted them was they came to visit the Jubilee Centre, which I thought was important and impressive, and asked a lot of questions about what we were doing, and of course that was at an early stage of the development of the Jubilee Centre, and the fact was that we weren't doing very much.
Yeah.
But they heard what we were saying about what we wanted to do, and encouraged us to write an application, which we did, and we got the full amount that I applied for to cover some of our core costs. I should also add that I've been now to 2 conferences run by an organisation called Funding for All, which the Kent Community Foundation funds out of its general funds. And Funding for All is an extremely useful organisation in that it brings together a whole lot of local organisations, and it also brings together fund givers. So, for example, the Kent Community Foundation, but also the Collier Ferguson Foundation, which operates in Kent, and is a much bigger grant giver than the Kent Community Foundation is normally. I mean, Collier Ferguson will give millions away if it's so inclined to do so, and other grant giving bodies. And the whole day is extremely useful because people talk to you about how to write a good application. There's one-to-one mentoring, so you can go and meet with somebody who will say, you can show them a draft grant application, and they'll go through it with you. And they'll do that online with you too, beyond the Funding for All meeting. So I have found working with Kent Community Foundation both supportive and also very professional, in that they ask what always seems to me to be the right questions, often quite challenging questions. And writing, I had to do the end of grant report because we got a grant, and I found that both challenging and interesting, you know, because it focused the mind very much on what we had actually achieved and what we hadn't achieved, and what the challenges had been and how we responded to them and so on. Those are the kinds of questions that were asked. And I currently have another application into them to fund a warm space project, which we're hoping to put on from January to March next year. And again, their response has been really helpful. I don't know whether they'll decide to give us the money. I hope they will, but they came back with a couple of questions which I thought were the right questions, and I was able to answer them, fortunately.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Breen.
Thank you. I thought it was an interesting presentation. Earlier today I read their annual report, and I would commend everybody here to go onto their website and have a look at their annual report. One of the key, just a few highlights from it which didn't necessarily come out in the presentation today. They have 10 trustees, 5 stepped down last year, 2 have been appointed since then. Catherine Glover, who spoke, took over as the Chief Executive in April of this year. The previous Chief Executive resigned, I think it was in February, and they had a short interim, which suggests that there was a little bit of turmoil between the Chief Executive going and 5 trustees. They do bank with the Charities Aid Foundation. They do use 2 investment managers, and in their kind of investment portfolio, they don't invest in armaments, in adult entertainment, and alcohol, tobacco, gambling, and predatory lending. They have, you know, kind of very clear policies. They have 16 paid staff, so it's a relatively small organisation. they've given out 60 million over 20 years, so they're giving out about 3 million a year. So it's quite a lot of money that they're doing, but the report is very clear. I was impressed by it, and I think they overall provide a very professional kind of organisation.
Thank you. And Councillor Miles.
Yeah, I read the annual report, and one worry I had was that we're obviously dealing with a very professional organisation, but I thought perhaps they were very highly paid and so on. But in fact, they have 16 or 17 members of staff. The highest paid member is between 70 and 80,000. The second highest is between 60 and 70, which I think is fairly modest.
Yeah.
I mean, my concern from my question is about the money going and it never comes back. So I think that is a risk, and there are various risks associated with charities. You could have fraud, you know, Maxwell, the pension fund, all those kind of risks, the stock market crashing. But a lot of those risks would happen if the fund stayed here.
Yeah.
So it's a question of balance. I think the greatest advantage of this arrangement is that they take off a huge administrative burden from STC, and we are struggling with trying to do too much. This process itself has been very time consuming for councillors and staff, so pushing that burden onto someone else at a fairly modest fee seems to me an attractive proposition, but we do have to balance the risks on both sides.
Yeah, as you say, it is that there are risks associated with giving the money to them, which would be the same for us. But I also feel they offer safeguards, because whilst this council, I think, has the community interest very much at heart, if we project in 20 years' time or 5 years' time or whatever, what's the attitude of the councillors going to be then in the way that they manage the funds?
Thank you. Councillor.
I've forgotten what I was going to ask.
So whilst you recall it, I was just going to check.
Oh yes, I know.
All right.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I thought Councillor Franklin's question about, you know, how do we, you know, if we want to memorialise Georgina Maddox, which I think most of us feel we do. So afterwards, I went up to one of the people there whom I've met because I've been to, you know, meetings. And I said, you know, it's an important question, what do we do? And she said, well, you just decide as a council to retain a certain sum of money before you hand it over to
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to take one more.
Yeah, the other thing, and of course you don't necessarily need to spend it every year. That's why I asked the question about rollover.
Yes, but this is about capital investment that we might want to make.
Yeah, I understand
we
that.
couldn't draw that out necessarily. We couldn't draw it out. But we could retain money before we invest whatever amount we want to invest.
So there are mechanisms.
I'm just going to ask Councillor Green, because I believe we've got a Maddox committee meeting in December. Correct me if I'm wrong.
10th of December.
Yeah. So I think there's an avenue here now in terms of questions coming into the town park by the end of this week, and I think we have a more detailed discussion at the committee meeting. There's a lot to work through. We need a risk analysis, the pros and cons. Okay, thank you very much. Move on to agenda item number 6, and this relates to change of trustees. This was an agenda item that we discussed at the 29th of September meeting of the full council, and it was agreed then to appoint Councillor Green, myself, Councillor Wiles and Councillor Black to be the authorised signatories. So this is a follow-on from that.
So, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, have we had the public participation?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
We have.
I missed that.
Yeah.
My apologies.
That's all right. But thank you for checking on it, because I do forget things.
Yes, the report is very vague because this is the written report. It's a bit like trying to nail a jellyfish, really, and get them to tell you exactly what we want to do. But I think we're getting there. I have the 4 new trustees have given me a form, and I have sent it all off to Harris Allday to proofread, and some have a few extra details that will come back to me. There is also an ID process that the new trustees need to undertake, which is in your little envelopes.
Okay.
However, I also need to get the signatories of the old trustees, and I have that documentation here. So if it would be possible at the end of this meeting or at another time, if the old trustees can come in and sign. There's one more document that we need to do, which is the signed minutes of the meeting where we agreed, which is the last STC meeting. But I don't think we can do that until we've got those minutes signed off. And then we've got to get the old trustees to sign those minutes. So it's involved, but we're getting there.
Yeah, forgive me, a lot's happened since the last meeting between then and now. Can I just ask, I can't remember, can I just ask why the reason why the change of trustees, please? I can't remember, honestly, I can't remember what the decision was. Because we only changed the trustees, what, a year ago, 2 years ago, when it's myself, Councillor Franklin and others, and I just wanted to see why the change of trustees.
We had a discussion about this in council and agreed it, and it was decided that the mayor, the deputy mayor, the head of finance and general purposes, so it was more to do with the roles as opposed to individual councillors.
That will change as time moves on.
Okay.
Councillor
Yeah, these new signatories.
On the rolls. People said, I'll do
Sorry.
it before.
No, it definitely was roles.
Yes.
It was definitely.
It was the mayor, deputy mayor, head of finance committee, and head of Tollgate Fund committee. Yeah.
That's correct.
Finance.
And I'm just going to say, these new signee signatories, are they members of the Maddox committee? Or will they be members of the Maddox committee? So I think they should be.
Yeah.
They should be at the meetings. No, but suddenly give them a check to sign a check and they haven't been part of the discussions.
No.
Councillor Black isn't it, I think.
Well,
That's a good point. So we'll have to review that. You said there's a bit more discussion around it in case. Thank you. Point taken, and we will note that, Councillor Franklin, and
Yeah, because never point in that signing a check. Well, you can't, can you? Yeah, and
got
it's a
knowledge. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7. So we have 2 items that are proposed to be discussed in conference, and we'll vote on these separately. The first relates to applications received for grants from the interim Georgina Maddox Fund. This is the second stage assessment of the grant applications. And under this agenda item, we will be discussing the suitability of applicants, financial information, and potentially sensitive information relating to the organisations who have made applications. The discussion that will follow will determine the award of grants, and applications will be advised in writing by the town clerk. A report will come to next Monday's full meeting of the town council that details the successful applicants and the value of each award made. So if we could, I'll read out this statement, then if we could vote on that first item. So to resolve under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960 and in accordance with Standing Order 5.1.2, to exclude the press and public on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. The Council has a duty of law, under law, to individuals whose personal data or other confidential information is required to be or is likely to be discussed. Is it a comment first before we
move that we go into confidential?
Okay.
Could I move or propose that as Margaret Thomas has been party and is a member of the Maddox committee, that she's allowed to stay with the meeting, participate in the meeting, but not vote.
Yeah, I'm happy to support that as well. But the first.
But only for the Maddox thing we're talking about.
Yeah. First, we've got a proposer in terms of moving the first item into confidence. Somebody happy to second?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, sorry. In fact, I still want to say thank you for your clarifications, because there's been a lot of speculation in the town regarding why is it being put in confidential, etc., etc. So thanks for the clarification, and I second that motion.
Thank you very much. We can vote on that. Thank you very much. Okay, so the resolution still